new priorities will emerge. Sometimes old ones which were not addressed will also be looked at. So you, in that sense, I mean, in a good way, you make it up as you go along. You know, you are very open-ended. We welcome any suggestion which any member has, or even which somebody else may give us, and build up an agenda on that basis. And that's the way we've actually built up the Quad, and I'm sure that's the way we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Reena Kaurtula, JNI. The Quad members also expressed concern about the South China Sea. I'm wondering if you have anything to add on or share something on in terms of the conversations. And the U.S. also plans 500% tariffs on import of Russian oil. I'm wondering if there were any discussions.
You're talking of the Senator Graham's.
So if there are any discussions on that front too.
Well, on South China Sea, we had I mean, there was some discussion because, as you know, that is an issue of great concern, not just to Quad members, obviously to Quad members because we are all maritime, but to the region and in many ways to the world as a whole. And a lot of the issue is really issues pertaining to UNCLOS, and, you know, there's been a tribunal verdict there. And the issue is to find a sort of a solution to the disputes which are there pertaining to that. And obviously the Quad members all have a shared interest, because for us it's a very important international waterway. So how to ensure that it stays calm and free of conflict is something which is a common priority. Regarding Senator Lindsey Graham's bill, well, obviously, you know, any development, but you know, which is happening in the U.S. Congress is of interest to us if it impacts our interest or could impact our interest. So we have been in touch with Senator Graham. The embassy, the ambassador has been in touch. I think our concerns and our interests on energy security have been made conversant to him. So we'll then have to cross that bridge when we come to it, if we come to it.
So thank you for doing this all. As you have mentioned during this bilateral meeting with your U.S. counterpart, you have discussed so many wide range of topics. Do you see during any upcoming meetings as an opportunity for the India and the US to discuss initiatives around seasonal labor mobility for India to US? As we see the significant contribution of the Indian and Sikh community in the sectors like agriculture, transportation, retail, and hospitality. It will be a win-win situation for both the countries.
I note that you have that point of view, but I would say on my visit, obviously that specific issue did not come up. But I did raise the question of more efficient and smooth issue of visas, because I think that is a public concern in India, and as a minister I obviously reflect the concerns of my country when I come to the United States. So I did raise that issue, but on the particular aspect that you mentioned, no, that did not come up for discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Anil Kaprkar from Pudari newspaper and Pudari TV News from India. Sir, can you elaborate on India's approach to balancing its strategic partnership within the Quad while maintaining its independence foreign policy stance, especially with the summit being hosted in India this year?
Well, I don't see any contradiction there, so the question for me of balancing it doesn't arise. I mean, Quad is, to my mind, a platform, a grouping that actually reaffirms our strategic autonomy. I mean, what does that mean at the end of the day? It means we are independent power, a large, independent, increasingly influential country, a growing economy. We have our interests. We want the right to make decisions based on our own judgment and our own interests. And definitely for us, membership of Quad serves that purpose. It is an expression of that very concept.
Asima Siruri, Economic Times. Mr. Minister,
Yes, on. We can.
given the military cooperation between China and Pakistan seen during the recent confrontation, is India more open to giving Quad more of a security dimension, like a little harder edge, as some have argued? Would India be more open? Because people say India is a little shy about that. The other question is about the 3 Quad members having various kinds of problems with the 4th, that is the US. Australia is under review with AUKUS, and Japan has been asked to do, more defense spending. They cancelled their 2+2 dialogue. India has a host of political issues that came up in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. How did that play out in your meetings? Does that cast a shadow? And one last short question on China. We don't know where the Trump policy is going on China. If Quad's main purpose is to sort of create an alternative and prevent hegemony by China in Asia, how are we supposed to understand what's happening right now?
So let me reflect on what you are saying. You are saying on the one hand, people among the Quad, there are issues among the partners, and then you are saying, so therefore, are you going to do more with the United States, though you have more problems? Seems to, the way you put it, which I don't agree with. So just you may want to reflect on that. So here's my point. Look, first of all, anything which happens between China and Pakistan, I don't see that as frankly shaping our Quad decision making. You talk about people say a lot of things. It's a free world, almost. I can only say what is our thinking, which is that for us, Quad serves a purpose, that by working with these 3 partners, we actually advance our national interests and a collective good in the Indo-Pacific. As I said, we strengthen strategic stability in the Indo-Pacific. So when you speak about, issues between countries, you mentioned US and China. Well, I think if we are strengthening strategic stability in the Indo-Pacific, that in some ways perhaps even, deals with the concern that you have. So, look, in a world which is more uncertain, which is more volatile, more unpredictable, anything which is a factor of stability, predictability, anything which adds to the stable side of the ledger, I think is welcome. And Quad is very much a platform that contributes to that. Whether among the Quad partners there are issues or not, when you have relationships, what happens between the rest of them is not my business, it's for them. I can only speak for myself. When you have big relationships with countries, the relationships will not be free of issues. I think the strength of a relationship is not its freedom from problems. It is the ability to address those problems and then keep that trend going positively. And I would, definitely make the case with the United States that has been so, that over successive administrations, and it's not like we've not had problems with the earlier ones. But we have been constantly able to address those issues and move forward. So the answer to uncertain, predictable world is not to, say, okay, so you should tie yourself closely to this policy or to that country or take a knee-jerk response one way or the other. That's not the way strategic decisions are made.
Good afternoon, Minister.
2 questions. Given India's growing role as a net security provider in the Indo-Pacific, how does the Quad envisage strengthening the regional security architecture in ways that complement ASEAN's centrality while reinforcing international law, particularly UN Convention on the Law of the Sea? And secondly, India has emphasized the importance of elevating the voice of the Global South within global governance frameworks. In what ways did the recent Quad discussions integrate this perspective, especially in terms of equitable infrastructure development and humanitarian assistance mechanisms?
On the first question, I would say we spent a certain amount of time discussing ASEAN, its centrality, its interests, etc. And the Quad has always been very respectful of the ASEAN. I mean, you have to appreciate that in many ways ASEAN provides a great sort of strategic contribution to the global system because it has created platforms where very, very diverse countries. I mean, if you look at the East Asia Summit attendance of various bodies, you get really countries which would normally not be in the same place at the same time coming for those meetings. So I think that value of the ASEAN is something we appreciate as Quad, definitely, I would say even as India. We very much, in all our discussions and activities as Quad, when we look at the Indo-Pacific, for us, ASEAN centrality is very much in mind. Regarding Global South, yes, of the 4 Quad members, we are the only one who's from Global South. But the Indo-Pacific itself has nations of the Global South. So a lot of our discussions, we are in many ways able to convey the sentiments and the thinking of the Global South. I mean, because we are from it, perhaps much more effectively than others who are not from it. But one of the issues which we did discuss was actually development projects, which mostly we do by each one of us doing nationally, but we compare notes on it. And many of those do pertain to the Global South.
So, Rohit Sharma, India Today. So first thing, obviously in the mind of a lot of people, what was your initial response at MEA and at Prime Minister's office when President Trump announced ceasefire? Did you immediately reach out to express your disagreement, and how was that taken by the White House? 2 years ago, second question. 2 years ago, I asked you in one of these briefings, and you noted that Pakistan was no longer a central piece to bilateral relationship between India and the U.S. Has that changed now after Operation Sindoor? And third, do you believe there is a double standard when it comes to terrorism, when it happens in countries like India versus the West? Do you think Western countries see it differently, terrorism happening on their shores versus when it happens abroad? Thank you.
Look, I would say that even today, the central factor in the relationship between India and the United States is India and the United States. It is our complementarity in many ways. It is the benefits that we get from closer relationship that is actually driving it. It is not, big relationships are not forged in terms of third countries and where they fit. The comment I made to you earlier, I would say applies even today. That, if I am talking about when I am looking at the future of our ties with the United States, or if I even look back at the progress in our ties with the United States over the last 20 years, I would put it to you, a lot of it is, it's about trade, it is about investment, it is about technology, it is about mobility, it is about energy, it is about defense. So I would really urge you to get over the idea that we need to define ourselves vis-a-vis third countries in order to forge ahead somewhere. That is not the case. We are a big country. We are, among the top 5 economies of the world. We are the most populous country in the world. Our influence is growing. We must have that self-confidence, even in asking questions. And I think the record of what happened at that time was very clear. And the ceasefire was something which, was negotiated between the DGMOs of the 2 countries. So I will leave it at that. And on the terrorism issue, again, it is a fact that countries, often countries do not take a position when some other country is a victim of terrorism, which they would do when they themselves are. We have, in that respect, honestly been much more consistent and principled. That we have, when terrorist incidents, attacks happen elsewhere, outside India, we have largely followed the same position that we have taken when they have happened in India. So, is your point that others not doing it? My answer to you is yes, you are right. Many of them are not doing it or not doing it sufficiently enough. And part of diplomacy is to exhort them, encourage them, persuade them, motivate them to do that. And which is why it's important to speak up, and which is why it's important to carry them with us to the best possible degree.
Thank you, everyone. That's all the time we have today.